Hello and welcome to the Ms. Wonderful Film Club podcast. I am your host, Jana Marie Rose, and I love offering this Ms. Wonderful Film Club podcast with my best friend of many, many years, Katie McGraw, who now that we are switching into the feminine zone of talking about film, we have a new moniker. Do you want to share what we are calling you?
We're just going to keep it simple and call me Ms. Cool.
Yeah, so we're going with Ms. Wonderful and Ms. Cool today.
Yes.
And we are discussing the films. I am discussing the films this month with guests for Nicole Holofcener, the director and writer, who I have been following for many years now. There's just something about her films that just touches my heart. And for years, I've just so excited whenever there's a new film coming out by her. So it is September, and we have renamed September Holoftember. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's a little awkward to say, but I think it has a strange kind of ring to it. Holoftember. It sounds like a tree, right? Like the timber thing. Timber.
Timber,
Yeah.
sure.
I don't know.
You know what? You can call it like, this is a more general thing, but like we're entering feminine fall.
Oh, why didn't you tell me that before I created this crazy Holoftember name? But
I
I
only
like it.
just thought of it. I only just thought of it 2 seconds ago.
Damn, that sounds really good.
Uh-huh.
All right. Feminine fall. And I do have plans for other things beyond September, but yeah, so we're starting with Nicole Holofcener as writer and director extraordinaire. So this film that we chose, so she has several films that she has written and directed, and I've been spending this past week trying to find podcasts so I can listen to her talk about her work, because I really haven't done that before. I just kind of look at her movies, hold them close to my heart, remember certain scenes and characters, but I haven't really sought out what does she say about her own work. So it was that was kind of fun to hear her talk on a couple different podcasts this week. It gave some insight, but it also didn't tell me more than it didn't really. I don't know. It was great to hear her voice. She has a really lovely voice. And hear some of her history, which I will share with you maybe in this podcast as we talk, because it sounds like a lot of these movies are autobiographical. And I was interested in the fact that I think her stepfather was like an agent or something. He was a talent agent, and she had some connections to watching some Woody Allen films be put together. And I really, after I heard that, I thought it was interesting because I think Nicole Holofcener's work is a combination of Woody Allen and Jane Austen. I feel like if you take, the films of Woody Allen and the way that there's these foibles exposed of people, and then Jane Austen, who's addressing in 19th century England the kind of class system and marriage and how things look from a feminine viewpoint, you get the 21st century Nicole Holofcener.
I agree with that. And the Woody Allen thing, it does, I mean, hate the artist, don't hate the art, but
Yeah.
it does, especially after just watching Please Give, it is very New Yorky, insular kind of, it's just these people pretty much revolving around this one group of people in a building in New York. And they're like little neuroses and sort of, like you said, foibles and all the intricate little details that you don't always get into in a lot of films. So it's kind of quiet.
Yes, quiet. I like that. Yeah. and it's even quieter than some of the other work of hers. So for listeners, Please Give is a film that came out in 2010. Catherine Keener is a star, as she is in a few of the films from
And a
Nicole
lot of her
Holofcener.
films, I didn't
Yeah.
realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she plays pretty much the main character, who's Kate. Kate is married to a man named Alex, who is played by Oliver Platt. They have a daughter named Abby, and that is played by Sarah Steele. And then next door neighbors are Mary and Rebecca. So Mary is Amanda Peet, who it was fun to watch Amanda Peet again because you and I used to watch, what was that TV show?
Jack and Jill.
Oh my God, we loved Jack and Jill when
It
we
had
were,
her and it had Sarah Paulson.
wait, remind me who Sarah Paulson is.
Sarah Paulson, well, she was the roommate, her friend, and she's been in so many things. She's notably, been together with what's her name? Holland Taylor, the woman who is like she's like in her 70s or something. And Sarah Paulson's, I think, maybe 50 or whatever, and is like really close friends with Pedro Pascal.
Okay,
I'm trying to think.
you know all these people. I don't
Well,
know.
Sarah
If I saw a
Paulson,
picture, if
if
I
you
saw,
saw
I have
her,
to look
you
up
would
a
know
picture.
her.
All
She's
right.
like also in all these Ryan Murphy things that are on FX.
Does Sarah have an H?
I believe so, yes.
Is it EN or ON? I'll find out. Oh, I see.
P-A-N.
Oh, yes, yes.
You know her.
Oh my God, she's so cute. I remember her now. Wait. Oh, wait. Let me just say that the other character is Rebecca Hall, who's playing Rebecca. And I want to come
Yes.
back to the initial scene of the movie, because it's pretty interesting initial scene.
Yeah.
But getting back to these connections. So wait, Sarah Paulson. Okay, I just looked her up.
She's been in
She's
everything.
adorable. Yeah, she was on Jack and Jill. That show.
I'm almost positive she was like the roommate who was good friends with.
Is that where I recognize her from? Jack and Jill.
She's also been in so many things like before that and after.
Oh, now I see Holland Taylor. Okay, it's so helpful to have the internet at your fingertips
Yes,
that
it is.
I can see people's
It's so
faces.
key.
I recognize faces, not always names.
Oh, right. That's what I was saying.
So wait, so let's just we're totally going in a tangent, but that's the way feminine flavor talks. So
Hmm.
so Amanda Peet was playing, was she
She was
Jack?
Jack.
Yeah, they did like an interesting thing in that
Because
show where she
Jill
was Jack.
was short for like maybe her name was like actually Jacqueline and Jill was short for like Jalelle Brand or some whatever the last name of Adrian Curry
Okay. I know
or
you
no
always remember
Adrian
everybody. Yeah. Okay.
whoever
So and then Sarah Paulson was Amanda Pete's roommate
roommate.
in that show. Okay.
I think so. Or they were at least best friends.
I can't really remember a
I
whole
don't
lot
remember
about the
much of
show other than
me
we watched
neither.
it. We watched it religiously. We loved
Yes.
it. And it was like a cute little romance, right? Between Jack and Jill. He was cute. And what's his,
Yes.
I have to look him up again. Now I have to see this guy.
You know
Adrian.
who it is. It's what's his name? It's from how not 10 Things I Hate About You. He was in those teen movies. It's what's his name? French last name. Entourage.
No, Adrian Grenier wasn't Jill.
Wasn't he?
No, no freaking way.
All right. Well, then who was it? It's some other
I've
guy.
I've looked over the career of Adrian Grenier, or if I'm Grenier, because I
Did you
really
look
like the
at
Devil
Jack and
Wears
Jill?
Prada. He was not Jill. It's really hard to look this up because the internet doesn't want to look at Jill as a GIL TV show. Wait, hold on. Here we go. Jack and Jill. It was spelled JILL.
Yes. Okay, fine.
Um.
Simon Rex was in it.
Oh,
Oh,
Simon
I'm
Rex.
sorry. It's Ivan
Ivan
Sergey.
Sergi. Yeah.
He has a bit of that look about him,
Oh, yes, he does
doesn't
look a
he?
little like Adrian Grenier.
Right?
He does. I see it. I see it. It's like a cousin or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. What
except
else?
Russian.
Yeah, yeah. He's good looking too. Oh, damn. What is he in? What is this guy in?
I don't know. I feel like he was in a lot of stuff during that time,
He's very studly.
late 90s, early aughts.
He was born in New Jersey.
There you go.
Yeah, Ivan
Hawthorne.
Sturgey. Was he in The New Girl too?
He could have been.
We
I
should
don't know.
really kind of be talking about the movie, but look at it's
We
the six.
should.
I think we're doing 6 degrees of Nicole Holofcener. It's really what we're doing. Right? Like,
Apparently,
yeah,
yes.
who said you need it to be Kevin Bacon? We're changing it feminine fall and it's or no, fall. Wait, we can't say feminine. We have to be really careful with our language.
Okay.
Feminine fall doesn't sound good, right? Because there's different meanings to fall, which is like saying falling down. So we have to
Mm,
create the fall feminine. How's that sound?
it's fine. I feel like feminine fall flows better. I don't think of it falling down.
I know, but there's so many meanings to words. I'm becoming more aware of these things.
I
Like,
know, but you can't
why
get too wrapped up in it. I mean,
you can't, but you have to. I don't know. I guess it's the intention behind the word, right? It's not about the actual. I'm teaching English. I teach English as a second language. So
I know.
this is especially on my mind because when I'm teaching students who are coming from other countries, I'm
Hmm.
constantly rolling my eyes about English. English is really complicated, right?
It is.
And so trying to tell them, the spelling changes. And in this word, a GH is silent. And in this other word, a GH sounds like an F. And
Oh yeah, no, it's confusing.
like, it's like, you sure you want to be here in the United States?
Oh,
We're crazy. We're
it's
crazy.
a
But
crazy language. It's a big mashup. What about femme fall?
ooh, femme fall.
F-E-M-M-E.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or you could do fall femme, actually. I think I might like fall
Fall
femme
femme. I like
better.
that better. Let's go with
I do
that.
too.
I feel
Okay.
better about that. That just feels like it hits all the sweet spots.
Yeah.
Fall femme. Okay, we're going with
All
it.
right. Well, we've
Um,
rebranded twice now. We've got it.
we've rebranded and we figured out all the people who are connected to all the people and the TV shows. And now we're
Yes.
back to please give. So the way that we approach these films
Hmm.
is first talking about the perspective, then going into some details about the story. And then instead of calling it acting, I've been calling it being, right? Because I think that really good performances are when one becomes the character. They are the character, right? And you don't see a distinction. It doesn't feel like acting. So the perspective and Nicole Holofcener's work is just, I don't know, I just love it. But it's very it doesn't seem to overtly try to address I'm a woman director and writer, right? Like it's women's issues and women are the stars, but it doesn't feel, that's why I feel like it has like a Woody Allen, you almost heard my Philly accent in there. A Woody Allen like
Hmm.
vibe in there, but it doesn't have anything that's overtly feminist in nature, right? Would you agree?
Yeah. I think it's like the adage of, write what you know, or in this case, write and film what you know. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like these are personal stories that happen to be from this more female perspective and more female focus, but that's just because that's coming from Nicole Holofcener, and it's this, it's not having it with like the headline is not feminist or,
Right.
that's not an objective. It's
Yeah.
storytelling and personal lives.
Yes. Yes. And I
Okay.
think that's why she's such an interesting figure in that industry because she's, and on the blog, I linked to an article about her where she's described as known but not famous, right? She's not kind of categorized in the same way that somebody like Woody Allen or Martin Scorsese
Well,
or,
sure.
or who's that? Paul Thomas Anderson, right?
Anderson,
These dudes, right? Like the guys.
sure.
But she has a level of respect and recognition for her
And
prowess.
she's like consistent. Like she's
Yeah.
always had stuff going. And it's always, I mean, I haven't read all reviews of all of her things, but I
Yeah.
think it's always, like you said, respected. But it's one of those things where it's probably on a different level, almost on a more indie kind of level, because I can't think off the top of my head of other movies where it seems like, oh, what must the budget have been? Like this feels like
Yeah.
relatively low budget. The actors are probably getting paid scale or something. Like they're not getting tons of money for it. And the locations even, it's just very in just a few spaces and on the street.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
has that more indie kind of feel about
Yeah.
it, but filmed really well, like not
Yeah.
haphazardly.
Yeah. I think it's grown up indie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a grown up indie film. Um, and it's intimate. I think that her work and this film is an example of that. There's these intimacies of like such subtleties that I was thinking about when watching this because I saw this movie a while back. It's not like one of my favorites of hers, but I wanted to look at it again for that reason. Like, why
Hmm.
didn't it stand out as much to me? But these little conversations between husbands and wives, or mothers and daughters, or
Sisters.
neighbors. Yeah, these little subtle conversations that I thought, what is it like to write that in a script?
Yeah.
That little subtlety is coming out in a script, and then to direct people to to say those things because they're so nonchalant, and also like the things you don't even notice about conversations. It's almost like for you
Hmm.
and your husband, right? If like at the end of the workday you're just in the kitchen and somebody's fixing dinner and somebody's getting your son something, and there's just like the subtle little small talk, but somehow
Yeah.
she makes it cinematic, and you're getting a little sneak peek of the inner lives that
Yeah.
people have.
I think that's exactly it. I think she excels at it from this movie. And I know I've seen like Lovely and Amazing in the past and maybe some other ones, but it's been so long that I would have to revisit. But I feel like she gets the beats of everyday life down really well. And it can sort of be an easy movie to maybe forget in some respects because it is so normal. But it doesn't make it boring. Like I was interested the whole time, but we should probably go back though and say this is all taking place basically in this apartment building in Manhattan, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think it's like Brooklyn or anything.
No.
And it's the husband and wife with their daughter, Kate, Alex, and Abby live next door to this elderly woman who's 90 or turning 90, who was played very well by I forget the actress's name, but she was in like all kinds of old shows, the Dick Van Dyke Show, all this stuff, because I remember her from that.
I'll let you finish and then I'll tell you her name. Go ahead.
Okay. And so, and she is being taken care of by her two granddaughters who don't live in that building, but are constantly over, more so Rebecca Hall. So Rebecca is the one who's like the dutiful granddaughter, the younger sister, who takes a lot of abuse from her grandmother, who is very insensitive and blunt. And then her sister, played by Amanda Peet, is like Mary is just kind of a terrible person in many ways. I mean,
Yeah.
she has her reasons. They've had trauma in their past, but she is just very like does not think about what she's going to say and doesn't care.
Yeah,
Just
she really
says
doesn't
things.
care.
And
There's
she's not
something
afraid to yell
there's
back at
something
the grandmother.
yeah, there's something kind of fun almost about that, like as a foil, because you have
At
these
first, yes,
other
I
women
agree.
characters who care so much and Mary doesn't care. So I like that she's there.
Right. But there's also like a hollowness to her because she's got her own issues and but she plays it really well, where she's just kind of like just moving through the world how she sees fit. And, kind of doesn't give as much sympathy to her sister because she sort of feels like, well, you're setting yourself up. I don't know why you're constantly helping our grandmother when she's always going to be a total bitch and hate everything and not really kind of allowing much grace in that respect. But you sort of see her point. And the big thing that starts all of it is that I guess there's an agreement or a sort of an agreement that the the couple with their daughter, they are going to, once the grandmother dies, buy her apartment and then break through and create a whole double deluxe apartment. And that is overhanging the whole thing, which is kind of this like kind of gross in some ways and seen by everyone in a way as like very foolish because it's just waiting for this old woman to die. But at the same time, trying to act like we're not just like waiting with our, with our just waiting
Furniture
for you.
ready, that or they're not getting too ready, but oh, that so that was
Like
the
we're
that
trying to
got
act like, whenever it happens and it's fine, and we don't want you to feel like we're just waiting for you to drop dead, but actually we are waiting for you to just drop dead. And then we can have our like bedroom deluxe suite that we will take and do and whatever. So like that's like the over overview kind of situation, at least when you first start it.
yeah, and it's like everybody's dream. So in terms of like in Manhattan, right? If you can get a next apartment next to you and break it down and make a big apartment, it's like the dream. But the
Right.
perspective, I mean, so the two things, the perspective is really one about it's about money and it's about this quote unquote word privilege, which in 2010 wasn't really the word being used. And I don't really enjoy hearing the word privilege anymore because it becomes jargon and it
Yeah.
almost takes on these other connotations. But it's, it's having more wealth and more ability to use it and some of the guilt associated with that and some of the questions of why am I in this position where I can sell expensive furniture and get an extra big apartment and buy my daughter $200 jeans, and there are people on the street who are begging. And I think that is the kind of underlying perspective of bringing some of those questions to light about class. But it's
Yeah.
a subtle. What I like about what Nicole Holofcener does with that is it's often very subtle. It's there's an awareness of it and a subtlety about it, which is why I'm comparing it to like a Jane Austen. The second
Hmm.
thing is I want to make sure we're not completely ageist in ignoring the name of
I
the
know. Go
older
ahead.
woman. Yeah. So her name in the movie is called Andra, and it's Anne Morgan Gilbert. I think I'm pronouncing the last name correctly. I don't recognize her from anything. I don't know if she's been in other
I
films.
think was more of a character actress and
Yeah.
has probably been in many different things that where she was an elderly person by the time we were watching anything. But having been a person that would watch Nick at Night and watch the Dick Van Dyke Show, which took place in the early 60s, she was, I believe, the next door neighbor who was, to Dick Van Dyke's character and Mary Tyler Moore's character. So like
Oh.
I know it like I think she did a lot of comedy. I think she was like
Oh, that
in a
makes
lot of stuff.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because her role in this is she's rude, but she's like comedic as well. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so the
Like
story,
unafraid.
yeah, unafraid, which is kind of what happens when you're older, right? You don't
Yeah.
really hold back too much.
Although I guess like the big thing that keeps happening between her and her granddaughter Mary is uh like a lot of people, the Andra doesn't really accept as much that she's like, yeah, I'm old and probably dying or whatever, but at the same time she's also like, well, when my feet get better or when my knees get better or when my eyesight is better, I'll be able to do this and this. And Mary is not afraid to constantly say, when is it getting better? It's only getting worse. You're declining, like
Yeah.
you're going to be dead. and
Right, right.
and it's just like a denial situation happening for her, and it just creates a lot of comedic moments.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the story without trying to give away too much, but I think if I had to pick a character to play in this movie, Mary would be so much the most fun character to play.
Oh,
I
for
think.
sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought she was spot on. I mean, and I have to say, it just sticks in my mind as soon as I saw it. I even like, maybe I didn't write it down, but it sticks in my head where they're at the dinner with Alex and Kate and Abby and Mary and Rebecca are there with their grandmother as sort of a like, oh, this is a birthday gathering, but also it feels like they're kind of ghoulishly like trying to get an idea of when Andrew's going to drop dead, which Mary very much is fine with calling out and saying, tell me what you're going to do with this place once she's dead, and like saying it in front of her. But
Which is so crazy. That scene was so crazy. I really didn't think
it
Kate
really was.
would like actually start telling her, but she does. She starts
She
telling
does,
her,
because it's
okay,
like, I mean, I guess this is where we're at. But when they were at the table, and I forget which part they were discussing, maybe it was when Abby was at the table and also being upset about her skin because she has acne and she's a teenager. Mary is putting on lip gloss while she's talking in the middle of the dinner.
oh.
And it was such a choice, I felt like.
That was
And
so funny because I was just about to put on my lip gloss. It was like I
I
intuited.
know,
So go
but it
ahead, you
was
talk and I'll
so
put on my lip gloss.
okay, but it was so well done. Like, that's, I think for actors, that's probably not the easiest thing. Just like eating and talking when you're doing a scene is probably like it takes some getting used to, probably. And the way she was like, while she's talking nonchalantly, just kind of going off on whatever she is monologuing about. And she's just like, okay, going about her business, breaking out the lip gloss, putting it on while she's discussing things or, whatever. And it was just so like on point. I don't know. There was something about it where I was like, this feels very real and
Yeah.
very, very like, I don't think that's an improv thing. I feel like that was a choice made, whether it's by the director or her, on how she did it, because it also lined up with her character very much, like worrying about her appearance and not like just being sort of in the moment of having this conversation. It was like, oh, you're almost interrupting what I'm doing by this dinner. Like,
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. So in terms of the story, there are
mm,
certain themes and approaches that I think a lot of Nicole Holofcener's films have. And
mhm,
one of the elements here that I want to bring up is so Oliver Platt is playing Alex, and Catherine Keener is playing Kate. And it's really this like dichotomies. I guess a lot of dichotomies in general in the films, but there's a lot of like skinny women. I have to say this because it happens in Enough Said and it happens in Friends with Money. Um, Skinny women with like these kind of overweight men, and somehow these overweight men are getting hot chicks. Like, let's address that. Can we address that a little
you can
bit?
address it. Go ahead. I
I
agree.
mean, like, I guess I'm curious about that.
It's a tired trope that's in like throughout television and movies that has happened.
Really?
Well, when you think of like sitcoms and stuff, like the guy can always look kind of like what King of Queens or The
Mm.
Honeymooners, if you're going to go way back, where it's like the guy can be a bigger kind of schleppy guy, and then the wife is always like by far the guy is punching above his weight. You know what I'm saying? Like she's always better looking and is held to a different standard. And
But she
you
holds
see that in a lot of,
herself. I mean, there's no one outside of her holding her to that standard. She holds herself to a certain standard. But I noticed
for
that.
that, but I just mean the trope overall that we as an audience
Really?
accept a
Yeah.
lot of times. I mean, look at a lot of sitcoms. You're going to be like, this guy is with this woman. I don't think so in real life. But in
Okay.
TV world, women are expected to be like, you got to keep it fit, you got to keep it tight.
Yeah.
Whereas the guys don't necessarily have to be in that place if they're funny, let's say, because a lot of times it's when it's a comedy.
Well, there's
But
all and well, and there's
yeah.
also about the woman. So she's thin, but she also these main characters, they're very so in this one, she's very generous and has carries a lot of guilt. And there's also this sense of like a self-esteem issue a little bit too.
Oh
I think
yeah.
it carries through some like again, if I'm comparing this, even though I'm the other movies I'll be talking about in another time or on the blog, I have a little bit about some of the other movies of Nicole Holofcener. But there's the insecure kind of woman who wants almost like the man to give her the kind of pat on the back or validation that kind of makes her feel better because she has some low self-esteem, and that's Catherine Keener here is playing that character in Kate. I feel guilty. I'm charging all this money. She's going into the homes of people who've lost loved ones. She's
Yes.
collecting the furniture. She's selling it at a
A
higher
high
price.
markup.
And people are loving all the stuff that they come into her store to buy. And meanwhile, she just has all this guilt and confusion about her life and what she's doing and if it's okay. And there seems to be
Yeah.
an underlying question of, is this okay? Am I okay? Am I allowed to have this kind of life? Am I allowed to, to have money? Am I allowed to have the apartment next to me? I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think that, yes, I feel like she definitely has that. It's sort of, I don't even think she's necessarily looking for validation from her husband, because I think it's more like for her, and I also think it's a midlife thing where she's kind of realizing, just like with the grandmother next door, there's a sort of vulture kind of thing happening where it's like just waiting for somebody to drop dead and then get in there and buy stuff at a deal and then sell it. And like it's the same with the apartment. It's like we're just waiting. It's on, we're on death watch
Yeah.
basically to get your stuff at a bargain. And then we're going to make this whole bigger, grander thing. And part of the thing that really sets her off, besides feeling that sort of, she's starting to get that creeping sense of guilt and like, maybe this isn't great, is then she realizes she's in the middle of that problem, as far as like she falls victim to it because she realizes people are coming in and saying, "Oh, where did you get this stuff?" And it turns out, well, collectors are buying her stuff at a relative bargain and then upselling in their own shops. So then she's like, wait a
Oh,
minute,
yeah, right.
because that's what's being done. She and her husband are doing to others. And now she's like the mid tier in
Yeah.
that whole ladder and realizes, oh, they're buying this wooden table that I said, oh, I guess, she paid like maybe $200 or something. She had it marked as 500 or 5,000 rather. And then she sees it's getting sold at a place not that far from there where it's for 7,000. So she's just
Right.
like, what? And
Yeah,
it's kind of
money
like,
and
yeah, this is
yeah,
you.
and so much is about, and this is why I'm saying it, I think it reminds me of like some of these like Victorian novels that women wrote, because so much is about perception and
Mhm.
appearance, versus what's actually happening. So in this story, just going back from the beginning, is Rebecca is she's helping women get mammograms. So the opening of this movie is
I
very
know.
interesting. It's not like any other movie that you watch where women are
Right.
just, you see a bunch of breasts, but not in a sexual way.
Not at all. It
Which,
felt very like, yep, that's how it
yeah,
is.
here's the mammogram machines. And I mean, I feel like we said, Nicole Holofcener doesn't do this big feminist thing over her movies, but that's a pretty badass move to just be like, listen, people, like,
Yeah.
these are breasts and this is what we got to go through. And you're going to watch several different pairs of breasts
And
go
it's
into
very
mammogram machines.
like it's so much that it can desensitize you too, because it's like one after the other. Because for Rebecca, that's all she's seen. It's the mundane. It's like, no, this is just the clinical kind of like
Yeah.
stuff these women have to do. And she's there as the radiologist tech to make sure it gets done. And, being women in our 40s, we have experienced the mammogram, and it is like, yeah, that's how it is. It does, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to watch, and obviously it's uncomfortable when you're in it, in that vice-like grip.
Yeah.
But it is kind of, and something that Rebecca comments on later, where she's like, I don't see like the guy she's going out with says something about like, oh, breasts all the time, like a guy would
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
like it's like, oh, it is the antithesis of sexy in this situation. And for her, she's like, I just view them as like these
The tubes. She says the
tubes of
tubes.
potential death.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's what I mean, like all the time you're giving at least a good percentage of your day, people are getting bad news that, they have breast cancer. So it's just
Yeah.
like,
I
yeah,
mean,
so
there's
she
no,
can't even feel good about like, she's not very good about her own self-image and her body.
yeah, she's very muted as her character in the story is very muted. There's a similarities to Kate in the I feel bad. I wish I could do more for my grandmother. I'm carrying some of the trauma of my parents, and now my grandmother, I'm going to lose my grandmother too. And I'm seeing older women, and not even always older women, but go
Yeah,
through these difficult experiences of mammograms and having to be called back for mammograms. But like she can't really feel, she has to keep things going in the motor of her life, and she can't really feel big emotions. It's like things are just kind of tamped down for the
yes,
character. No one, I mean, if we're going to go there with the characters, no one tends to feel really big emotions. Kate does cry in this movie. Kate has moments of crying, but
yes.
everybody in some way is muted. It's almost like they're all on
Except for the daughter.
antidepressants. Like there's like a they're all just taking like the button that says slow it down, just slow it down and
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
chill out, you know?
I think the only one who isn't though is Abby as the teenage daughter.
Yes, yes.
She is very, I mean, there are times where you're just like, I don't like you. Like, I get that acne and being a teenager, it's tough. We've all been there, but like, you are being really like horrible to your mother and annoying. But at the same time, it's like, that's how it is. These
It
are these
is.
big emotions where she's just losing her mind about I look awful and all of you are telling me I look fine, but you're lying to me. So why? And it's like, oh, this rings a bell. This resonates. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
And she, as much as she's like rejecting her mom, she needs her and sees that. And you see that kind of come full circle by the end of the movie. But it is very like, it's very everyday. It's very normal in that respect, where she's like, I just want these jeans. They're the only ones that look good on me, and it's $200. And her mom's like, of course, like any mother, no, we're not spending $200 on you. Like, it doesn't matter that I might have $200 jeans. I'm a grown up, and it's my money, which I agree with. But like for the daughter, it's just like, no, you don't understand. This will be the way I look good. This will be, if you could just get me this XYZ. I would be better. I would feel better. And you're denying me. And I feel like that is the most like volatile of the relationships because even with her dad, she's not yelling at him. She takes
Oh
it out on her.
yeah. Dads get off so much easier than moms in terms of
And
the
yeah,
judgment.
so like I mean, it's played very well. And I feel like this movie in general, it goes through every age kind of or time in your life is represented. From
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't go from like babies, but like you have the teenage daughter, you have the parents that are in like midlife, you have the two granddaughters that are in like late 20s, early 30s, and then you have the grandmother who is end of life. And you just see how each perspective is, for each of them, but then also how that all comes together but how they're all seeing each other and themselves is very interesting in the way it gets approached. Um, but then so then with all of that, there's also the portrait of a marriage, which is
Yes. Yeah.
Alex and Kate, who seem good. Like they
Yeah.
seem like, you know what, people that have been married for a long time, they get each other. They are partners in business and in life. And they're also like, they've got comedy between them, like they have good banter. They're but they're also very like set and settled and okay with it and like seemingly relatively content, but like obviously there's going to be some issues when it comes to when Mary enters the picture and seems weirdly, and I still don't get it, except that it seems like she wants to be disruptive to distract herself from her own problems of
Yeah. Oh,
self-esteem.
that's it exactly, I think.
Because I can't imagine she's like, ooh, I want to get with this like 40 something year old overweight guy that lives next to my grandmother. Um, it's really just like
Who's
it is a total
who's
and married
married
and
and who
has a
I have to
kid.
see is the yeah, it's awkward, but she seems
She
to
just seems like I'm gonna bust into this like a bull into a china shop, and then I'm gonna just be like, and now I'm done. And
yeah,
he
well, I think it's
almost,
about power for her because she has the and this is another theme in Nicole Holofcener. I keep talking about the themes. But that's why I like her. It's like what when you write when you pick a novelist who you read all the novels because there's something they tend to be doing all the time and
of course,
you feel right at home when you jump into the next movie or the next, work. But there's something about this because this happens in Friends with Money, the woman who's been scorned by the man, right? The man's left her and she can't quite get over it and she wants to know about the other woman. And so
yes,
Mary is doing that thing. I love that awkward. That's a great scene too where and wait, I don't want to give away too much in case people haven't seen it, but she's walking by this store because she knows the ex-boyfriend is with this other woman and she
right,
wants to see that woman and she wants to find ways to pick that woman apart
uh-huh,
that she can feel like it's okay that he basically abandoned her for someone else. And
right,
I think that's why she's open to whatever little affair or fling shows
yeah.
up because it's about power. I want to do this to somebody else. And that these are very freaking
Or I
huge.
want to feel validated about how I am still young and vital and look good.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's very common for women, if we're talking about the fall femme here, for women to do that kind of thing. I remember I personally do not operate that way, but I do know that there are a lot of women who do.
Hmm.
And I remember having this friend who later just became an acquaintance because we were so different, who said to me she had there was a guy, I think she was a teenager or like college age, and she liked him. And I remember no, wait, here, I'm sorry, I messed up. He liked her. She
Hmm.
didn't really like him,
Hmm.
but she was similar to this Mary character. And that's what, again, there's just such parallels in like looking at humans, just looking at
Hmm.
the way humans behave. She was similar to this Mary character in that she decided to have sex with this guy that he liked her. He wanted to lose his virginity, I guess. He was still a virgin, and
Hmm.
my friend slash acquaintance was not. And she said to me, I wanted to take his virginity because someone took mine. And I remember just like
Ugh.
thinking like yeah, I mean, I don't talk to her for these reasons, right? Because it was just like cruel. But it was unfeeling,
Yeah.
so unfeeling about someone else's feelings. And I think that's where it comes down to this topic of power.
Like the
Like,
cycle of abuse, or just, I mean, not that it was all that, but a sort of like, I I will use this to validate how powerful or how,
what I can get and what I can do. Because if someone
right,
else does it to me, then you do it to someone else. And ew, I mean, I think that's a lowbrow way of thinking, but that's kind of what
yeah,
Mary's doing. Someone took my man. I'm going to take someone else's man. Right.
right.
Like, I mean,
He's
it's
right, and
no,
he's the most readily available.
yeah,
So he's right there.
I
And
can
it's
get it.
like,
Yeah.
I will do it, and I will do it at the expense of the person and their feelings.
And their
Because,
relationships
yeah,
and what impact that has.
and just kind of then be willing to be like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. So we're
Yeah.
done now. And
Yeah.
it's very callous and,
Yeah, callous is the way. And I think that's why again, these movies there's what, obviously I don't agree with a character like Mary, but it's so true to life. You can
yeah,
find these people and all of these movies, you can find people like that in your circle at some point who behave in those ways. And that's what
Mhm.
I like about them. They're these mirrors of the way social groups operate. I mean, not all social groups, because I do think there's heart in these movies. And like,
Oh
I
yeah.
always feel the character. It's not, can you think of whether it's a novel or like a film where it's sort of a study of human beings and human behavior, but or society, quote unquote society, but there's
Mhm.
not heart in it, because that's what I think Nicole Holofcener brings that keeps me coming back. There's just heart. She loves all these people. There's like
Yeah,
love. You feel the love. And that matters to me when I watch a film. You feel the love. It's not like
I
she's being
agree.
critical in a way of like, I'm going to have a revenge story here or there, or I want you to dislike this character. Everybody is loved no matter
Yes.
who they are in
Well,
these
because it's like, look, we accept all.
yeah.
Characters welcome.
Yeah.
Like, sort of just, this is, everybody's messy. Everybody's got conflicting feelings and attitudes and say one thing and do another. And that's just how it is. Um, and she just kind of lets it be all out on display without necessarily, like, you know, not really judging anybody, just kind of putting it before an audience. And not everybody is, and it's a lot of gray areas. Is everything's kind of a gray area for these characters, because Mary's not all bad. She's just a very hurt person and
Yes.
very just is vapid, but because she's in pain, so it's like a
Yeah.
hard shell. And then
Yeah.
her, meanwhile, her sister, Rebecca, is just feeling a lot and just kind of is almost exhausted by it, but has this constant sense of duty and wanting to make things right or be a people pleaser. And then Kate has the problem of she's a good person, she's sophisticated, she's like got a lot of great things. But this whole thing where she starts feeling like I need to do something outside of what I do now. I need to do charitable work and not just giving money out on the street and everything. And it is kind of like she sort of embodies this. And again, I don't know if it was as much in 2010, but you see this with a lot of different people in literature and movies where it's like she wants to be altruistic, but it's coming from, and she sort of questions herself with this, but is it coming from, I want to help people, or is it, I want to help people to feel good about myself?
Yeah.
And it's a selfish kind of thing. And it's kind of like a classist thing too, to be like, I'm this white woman who has at least some amount of money, and I just feel bad all the time. So let me alleviate my guilt
By giving
and
these
be
guys a 20 on the
right, or being weepy all the time about it. And it's like, this isn't helpful. And I thought it was really good when she's trying to find a place where she wants to be helpful, but at the same time, she's kind of picky about it. And when she goes to the basketball game for the people with special needs who are having fun, they're doing well, they're playing basketball. And she starts to kind of break down and just go like, oh my God. Meanwhile, you see the social worker woman who's there and is probably like, I have seen your types before and you are not helpful. Because she's so like, oh, it's so hard for them. It's so sad. Like, oh my God, I can't stand it. And to the social worker, it's like, we don't need you. This isn't for you then, because you're crying and they're having fun. And you're like acting like, oh my God, they have the worst lives ever. And that's
not
ridiculous.
helping them. Yeah. So
It's
I
not helping them and it's not the reality. So you need to go elsewhere
well
because
I
that's
have
not what we're doing. And she then even has to be consoled through the bathroom door by one of the disabled people or differently abled, whatever, someone who I think has Downs. And I honestly, I wanted it to be a moment where the woman, the girl who is, in the baseball league, maybe just confronted her. Not to just say, are you okay? Which was fine, but I kind of wanted to be like, you know, you shouldn't be sad. We're having fun. Like, just
yeah.
kind of like clock that. Instead, she's in there, she's crying, and you're like, lady, what is your problem?
Well,
What
okay. I want to address two things
Go ahead.
about what you said. Okay. First, I was trying to think of, another artwork, film series, book where it's like a societal commentary or a group of people, but there's not the heart
Hmm.
to give a comparison. And the one that came to me was Entourage, the series. I didn't see the
Hmm.
films, but I think when Entourage came out, since you meant, I think because you mentioned Adrian Grenier earlier, if I'm saying his
Yes.
last name right, I don't know if I am. Earlier in the podcast, it made me think of him. Oh my gosh, by the way, I just saw a huge rainbow. There is a huge, how cool is this? Sorry, I'm distracted, but there's this amazingly huge,
Sure.
beautiful rainbow outside my window. That is very cool.
Hmm.
Um, okay, back to, yes, Entourage. I remember when that came out. Um, I felt like I watched it because it had this hip vibe. But the thing that really bothered me as a woman in watching it, because I love men and I can deal with the like bro story. I
Sure.
can watch a bro story, but it was so much about fame and power and um
Ego.
ego and using women and like protect ourselves first and everybody else comes last. Whereas I, if you did a comparison, I don't feel that way in these movies because there's a lot in Nicole Holofcener's movies, there's a lot more heart,
Yeah.
but she's still doing the commentaries of the levels of society and money and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So the second question I have based on what you were saying is if there's all this guilt, right? Okay, tell me, because of your Catholic background. I, I'm not saying I didn't have guilt in my life at different times for different reasons, but
Sure.
not in the same way that it's almost like cultural in some milieu.
Hmm.
There's a cultural guilt that happens, and um, what is it seems like she's carrying some sense of guilt, but why would she feel responsible for everyone? And I guess that's another question that comes with guilt, right? Is almost
Yeah.
like this sense that I'm responsible for everyone. So if someone's suffering or someone doesn't have what I have, somehow I have to
Right.
give to them what, yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering where that comes from because there's ways of looking at that of we have compassion and generosity, right? And
Yeah.
kindness. But then the shadow side would be guilt for what I have, but I don't have what these characters have or any of these characters in the movies, right? I'm not upper middle class. I don't have that experience of
Right.
I can buy $200 jeans. No, I don't have that experience, right? Like I choose not to, but I can get them. That's not my experience.
Right.
So I perhaps I just can't speak to that, but she is sort of offering a voice to that, right? The creator of this film is offering a voice to the
Yes.
guilt of why do I have so much and other people don't, and I don't know what to do about it.
Right. Well, that
Yeah.
is kind of what she's doing. I feel like it's again, I do feel like it's a midlife thing as she's taking stock of things and she's not in the throes of when you have a young child and your life revolves around them because her daughter's a teenager. So there's, some free space in her mind for other things. And she's also just it's becoming more of a having more of an impact on her, the whole cycle of how she and her husband make their living.
Mm.
And it starts to just kind of chip away at her so that she is feeling more and more like icky about how she makes her money. And then there's so much around her that people are in need and it overwhelms her. But it also is like not productive in the way that she is trying to handle it. And you see that especially when she's giving the money. It's so funny when her daughter like refuses to give the homeless guy $20 because she's like, I want it. And that's a whole bunch of other stuff going on there, but like where it almost feels like it's a for Kate, I'm assuaging or I'm trying to assuage my guilt of having more and seeing all these people that are in my neighborhood and giving them something. And it also feels, even though she, I think, would say, I'm not doing it for this reason, it's performative to a degree. Like I see someone, I got to give them this money because it's it's somehow going to make things better and I feel better and that's what it's really about instead of it coming across as like, are you really caring or are you even noticing? Are you noticing the difference between the black man standing in line for his dinner reservation and an actual homeless person because you're just handing money because he looks the way he looks. And it's very like, this is very what I think a lot of upper class white people might do, where it's like, oh, it's patronizing. That's what it comes across as in some
Yeah,
ways.
I guess that. Well, but who cares what it comes across as? I mean, other than like
But
underneath
I
it.
think she's not, and it's tricky. I don't know how exactly it
Yeah.
works, but yes, she feels guilt. I feel like she feels, you know, rich white lady guilt and wants to do something about it, but then doesn't want to do something that's going to be too uncomfortable for her and put her out of her comfort zone. Hence, she looks into these different charities and then ends up not doing them because she just, it's like, well, I want to help, but I'll just, like giving money on the street is easier for her because it is. And even though she wants to be like, I want to be a better person, but but do you really want to dive into that? Like there's a push pull. And I think that happens with a lot of people, you
I
know?
think it, yeah, well, and I want to address that because I think it's really great that she puts it in this movie. Again, it's so subtle that people might not recognize what kind of underlying question that is that a lot of people wrestle with because, you know, when I worked, when I started working in the city after working in the suburbs, and I would go into the city on the train, and there were a lot more homeless people. This was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I hadn't been exposed to that, in a regular way every day. And I really did, similarly to this character, Kate, sit with that. What am I supposed to do? I felt bad every single day. I really did. I was going to a religious or Quaker organization to work. By the way, I think Amanda Pete might be Quaker. Quakers
All
get
right.
really excited if there's like one.
Another Quaker.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, "Oh my God, we have somebody in some significant art forum." Um, but
Well, you guys
but
also had Richard Nixon, but whatever. We won't say
yeah,
that.
well, don't group me with all the Quakers. I'm an
No, no, I know.
individual and
He
I
lost his
I go
way.
to meeting for worship. There you go. Um, but yeah, I really did. I wrestled every day sitting in my office. I was like, what do I remember writing about it too, writing an article about it. But I was like, what do I do about this? Like, this is crazy. Like, I can't
Right.
really walk around with cash every day and give it to everybody. I
Right.
don't want to ignore a human being. These are human beings. This isn't like,
Right.
and I'm clearly like trying to put my own faith and belief system as a priority in my life because I'm walking to a job where I'm talking about testimonies of peace and
Mm-hmm.
equality and integrity and simplicity, etc. So I can't just not look at someone in the eye. And I used to have questions that I would go to coworkers about there and in other places, like, tell me what you do. Do you have a strategy for this? How do we address, like, how do I
Yeah.
handle this?
No, I get
Um,
it.
so I think it is a challenge. I don't think the character, in my opinion, doesn't come off as performative. I think it's awkward, and most filmmakers don't address it, and most people in life don't address it.
Right.
Because they just treat homeless people or people who are mentally ill and on the side of the street as non-human, which is not okay. But
No.
also there are people who are filled with demons who are on the street who aren't going to know whether you gave them money or not, right? So
Right.
it's just a very confusing situation. What I did, and I'm just going to share this caveat because when I was in uh, Europe a couple years ago for a longer period of time, I was also doing like a lot of meditation and prayer and trying to kind of prioritize like what is my calling in life, what is my
Hmm.
priority. And I saw a lot of homeless people, and again kind of sitting down with the big honcho in the sky, who I don't think is male
Hmm.
necessarily, saying
Sure.
like, what do I do about this? Tell me what to do. Money, these issues of money and class and society, and there's poor people everywhere, and some people don't even have homes. Like, tell me what to do here. And I really wanted an answer. And the decision that I came to was that I was more comfortable giving like a sandwich, giving food.
Sure.
um so I made a decision that I would try to like have food if I had, like, even if it was granola bars or something. And I'm saying this for anybody who's listening, if they're wrestling with those feelings, because
Yeah.
it's a very real thing. um Sometimes a homeless person will tell you I'm gluten free, and so I'm like, okay, well, you're shit out of luck. Like,
Interesting.
I'm not carrying around gluten
Well,
free.
they're people, they've got their dietary
Yeah,
things.
and then
And
sometimes I'll have nuts. Like, I would be in a car in Philly, and somebody's, and I'm like, I'm like looking for what, I mean, maybe I'm like this freaking character. I'm like looking in my glove compartment. I'm like, I have a whole bag of nuts. I can't eat nuts. So
I mean, I feel that, so I
but
understand.
sandwiches tended to work. So I have on several, maybe even many occasions said, I can get you something to eat. And I've walked with people to, to get sandwiches or to get pizza or something.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have enough of an inner discernment at this point where I can tell, is somebody just kind of mentally ill and a little out of it, and it's not worth me really engaging with them in this way? Or
Yeah.
is somebody like legitimately kind of struggling
Hmm.
and they need a little extra help? And I feel like I have that discernment. I think the character in the movie doesn't have that kind of discernment, which is why it's the awkwardness and almost humorous. But I do think that
Yes.
I want to address this like as part of the story, because it does underlie a lot of it. As human beings, we are responsible for one another. You know what I mean? It's not dog, it shouldn't be a dog eat dog world. It should be
Sure.
where if I have wealth and privilege, and again, that word privilege, I don't know. I wrote an article recently where I said privilege is in the eye of the beholder, because I've had people say certain things to me at certain times, and I'm like, well, my actual experience hasn't aligned with your perception of what my experience would be. You know what I mean?
Right. One can
But
never know.
yeah,
There's
but
struggles.
but um but yeah, I think that we are meant to take care of one another. And I think that there is sometimes a feeling of, well, I want to do something great and good and big for everybody because maybe I can help in really significant ways and be heroic. There might be some ego in that. Um, but at the same time, maybe just who shows up. I think
Yeah.
that's what I've kind of come to is you can't kind of do maybe everything for everyone, because that might be too
No,
challenging.
you
But
can't.
but if someone shows up and there's a genuine like, this is someone I can help, you help them. I think that is what, if
I
you had
think
to
it's
come to
genuine.
a morality closure on
Right.
the story, please give, right? And who do we give to, and what do we do with guilt
Right.
or senses of entitlement or not no like humility? What do I do? I think if someone shows up and you can genuinely help them, you try.
I agree. No, and I would say for Kate, she genuinely wants to help. It's one of those things though where it can come across as very like cringy at times. Again, like when she tried to give her leftovers to the guy who was in line for his dinner. Um, and I can understand where that comes off as like, oh, I'm on the street. Thank you. So I'll be grateful for these leftovers. Thank you so much. And it's like, there is a certain element that I can see how that comes across.
Yeah, but if you're hungry, it doesn't it's
If
not
you
about
are
how
hungry,
it's not about how it comes across. It's like, my heart is with you. I have leftovers. I've done that, Katie. I've like had leftovers, and I've been like, what am I supposed to do with all this food? I'm not going to eat it. And if there's a homeless person, I give them my leftovers. And
okay,
and
and that's fine. I'm
like
just
it's,
saying
yeah.
in the movie, they make it a cringy moment
Yeah,
because
because I
it's
think it's
someone that
cinematic.
she's not like
Yeah.
she's automatically putting in a category of, oh, you look like, you must be kind of struggling on the street. And and he's not. So I think there's that element of like a sort of blindness on her part or on a certain class's part of who looks or seems like they're in need.
Well, I
And
think
it being a sort of misplaced altruism in
maybe,
that
may-
respect.
maybe, and I think cinematically it makes sense to use the character as a tool for humor in that regard. But I do think
Yeah.
there's there's a genuine question sometimes, and there are people in a kind of, here are our social norms, and if we
Mhm.
have money and wealth, our social norm is we ignore poor homeless people on the street because we don't
It's true.
interact with them. And I think it would be interesting to see that explored a little bit more cinematically, because I do think there's this assumption of, I mean, there are people who have so much money, it's almost disgusting,
Of
because you're
course.
just like, there's so many like there are actually people who don't have running water. There are people who don't know where their next meal's coming from. They have 3 sets of clothes, and you are sitting on this enormous sum of money, and
Mhm.
3 blocks down the road, some mother can't pay her rent because of this or that, right? And
Right.
that's gross. And but to suggest of like, we don't talk about my money because I have a bunch in the bank, and we don't talk about that, and you don't give it to people because it's not part of my societal norm. Well, F your societal norm. Like, that should be a consciousness that I think happens a little bit more. But I think what the characters are wrestling with, and not just this movie, but also Friends with Money, and is
Mhm.
um is like, how do you do it? How do you do it? Because there's not,
Yeah.
like, they're not sitting at the same dinner tables or restaurants, or and they're not running in the same circles or country clubs. So how do you do it? And um I don't know, I think that Kate's daughter is typical of an adolescent, is like, you're not going to give some guy on the street money. No, because adolescents are extremely self-conscious. But,
Yeah.
you know, an
Also,
older
like,
one,
I want money. Give me money. And
right?
it's like, but you're feeling, you seem too entitled. But it is kind of like, I think for the daughter, where she's just like, stop it. Like, you're going to have all this guilt and make this whole thing. It feels like it's all about you when you do this, and then make others, like maybe the daughter or her dad, but maybe more so the daughter in that moment, like feel bad that she's not being as charitable or nice as her mother seems to be. And it's sort of like a sometimes, and maybe for her, it's this is like inferring a lot, but like you're so focused on helping these other people, but I'm struggling. And even though I think it's being addressed, the mother, for the daughter and for a teenage girl when she's
Yeah.
going through this stuff, is
Yeah.
just like, this is infuriating. I
Oh
told
yeah.
you the one thing that would make me feel better would be to get these jeans. The one thing. I hate my face so much and I feel so ugly. And I tell you this one thing, and you're going to trifle with this $20 to this guy because he's just on the street and you don't know him. He's a stranger. What about me? And it's entitled, but it is also very normal. And I think it's a good moment where they're just arguing over giving this guy money. And then the woman sort of apologizing to the homeless guy, who is probably like, I mean, he's just standing there, like, kind of like, whatever. Where she's like, I'm so sorry, I can only give you the $5 because she's like, kind of like my daughter. And it's like, yes, it's embarrassing, but this is stupid. This whole situation right
Yeah.
now.
And the difference with me as a parent is just like, yeah, I wouldn't put up, I would just say, I'm giving him the 20, and you and I are going to talk at home. But I didn't have there's that girl, right? And the
Yeah,
way she is, I love that actress Sarah Steele. She plays Abby. Dealing with a teenager like that is a whole different ball
right.
game than the the
You're at a
very
loss and you're in the middle of
easygoing,
the
yeah,
street.
easygoing and most often very polite children that I have wouldn't create a scene, but they would think I was very weird and probably share that with other family members. My mom is really weird because she's giving people food on the
Right,
street.
right.
Not supposed to do
That's
that. And why is she doing that? And
and that's something though I will say, like I having a teacher in high school who would do that, would go and be very much like, I'll go in and buy a sandwich for someone, like that's a good way to, but part of, but sort of what's implicit in that situation too, which I was like, oh my gosh, that's so wonderful and nice, you know, when you're a kid. Meanwhile, I'm not going to do that myself as a high school kid at all. But like, there is sometimes something that feels like a sort of unknowingly condescension of like, I'm not going to give you this money because you might like, for the part I'm not going to say out loud, because you might spend it on drugs. So I'm going to take this money and I'm going to buy you a sandwich and I'll give you this. And I'm not saying that's the case with everyone, but like there are those things where it's like, don't just, if you just give them money, then they're just taking it to do drugs, or they're just doing it because they panhandle for a living. And like a lot of that is just garbage. Well, the money for the drugs part, maybe not always. But it does kind of have like a, oh, I'll give you something on my terms rather than you said you need money. That's what you wrote on your cardboard sign. Here you go. And I think like there is a bit of that feeling going on when she's trying to help. It's not, and it's not like a bad thing. It's good intentions. It's just the execution sometimes, for her at least, comes off badly. Again, like when she decides, okay, I just can't give money. I need to be involved. But then she's like a mess because she sees people and she's automatically feeling like, oh, they're suffering. And that's so horrible. And that makes me feel bad. And it's like, lady, what are you like? Pick a lane. You want to help, help, but don't be, it's almost patronizing that when she's crying at that basketball game, because it's like, what are you sad about? They're happy. You're making it about like, oh, you're disabled and it's sad seeming and like,
I
or
can
that,
I can
I don't
see
know.
your point of view, but I don't I mean, and it's all the way it's presented, but I think that the human struggle and the human question of compassion and having compassion for other people and trying to figure out what is my role here? Is there something I can do? I think that's a genuine human
I agree.
question.
And that is a
Yeah.
question where you think, because I having worked in Baltimore City for years and also being part of an organization that did do homeless outreach, um, and seeing that firsthand all the time, and having people that were in our workforce that had been formerly homeless or still were, but were in a shelter, you know, or in addiction treatment programs, you see that and it is like overwhelming because you are kind of like, well, I can't be giving money out all the time. First of all, because I just don't have cash all the time.
Yeah.
Secondly, now I could be a target.
Exactly. And
If
that's
people
been
see me
yeah.
always giving this,
Yeah.
then that gets clocked because
Right.
I see the same people all the time. So like that's something you have in
Yeah.
your head. And then you're like, and where does it end? Because it doesn't. And am I just contributing in some ways if they're just taking money? And it sounds bad, but like using it in ways that are not helpful. But it's also like, well, that's their choice. So it can be very like, okay, well, then I just do nothing. I just blinders on. And I have been guilty of doing that just to a certain degree because it's also like most times I don't have cash on me to give you.
Yeah.
And also or people are genuinely somewhat frightening because they are not in a good mental headspace
Mhm.
and have been aggressive
Yeah.
with me, even where, you know, like I have had fear. And the only way that, you know, I can see forward to make myself feel like, all right, I'm trying to be part of a solution in a way is when I've worked for companies that is one of their missions. Or I've worked
Yeah.
for companies where that is their sole mission. And it's like, okay, I'm contributing in this way. I I'm not going to be down in the streets giving out all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
right. You find your way. I see what you're saying. Find your lane, find your way. But I think that this film is capturing someone trying to find her way and the
And
struggle
she
she's
is, and
into.
she really is
Yeah.
struggling, and she's trying. And I think in some ways she can sort of find her way more when it's dealing with Rebecca's character, or
Yeah.
Rebecca, when she loses her grandmother, when the grandmother does finally just die in her chair in front of the
Yeah.
TV. And she's just sort of like at a loss because Mary decides she's got facials to give, so she's got to go.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you wait here for the coroner, basically. And so that Rebecca reaches out, and then that's where Kate is able to, bring her in and hold her, and then be able to wait with her while
Yeah.
she's dealing with this.
She can offer something to her neighbor, her actual
Yes.
neighbor.
But
Yeah.
yes, give to your neighbor,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
offer solace um and just support and compassion, because that is what Rebecca really needs in that
Yeah.
woman, and also just in general, but especially then. She doesn't
Yeah.
want to be alone. And Kate being there is a great act of love. And
Yes. Yeah. The people. Right.
it's
Right.
giving. It is giving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
I
see
think you're
that.
right. I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, in that regard, she is there. I do feel, I guess, more of a kindred spirit in Kate than I thought once we started talking about her. Once we went behind the screen of it a little bit, I
Mhm.
could see a little bit more of myself in her. So
Well,
I
and the fact
think,
that she is struggling to figure it out is commendable too, because she's trying to investigate why she's feeling these feelings and how to help somebody or someone, and and feel like she's giving back. Like, she does wrestle with it, and not everybody would.
well, and I feel like there's that level of compassion that there's these questions, and I don't want to jump into a different movie, but Friends with Money also has those questions where Jennifer Aniston's character says, why don't you just give people money? Like, if you're trying to help people, just give them the money. And Joan Cusack, I forget their names offhand, but Joan Cusack's character is like, because that's not how it's done. We come to these fancy dinners and we sit
Right,
down and we get our tote bags, and this is how we give the money, right?
right.
And it's just
There is a protocol.
right. But not many people, I think, are addressing the issues of money and class in a way that's really sensitive and delicate, and also has a tinge of humor. And I think most people would kind of overlook some of those matters, but I like that she does it. I do think it would be super fun, now that you mentioned the nonprofit, that Nicole Holofcener, I hope she's listening. I hope she listens at some point, has a movie about people in a nonprofit. And like, what I would love for her to be behind the scenes and see how people in nonprofits work and how they can be more egotistical than corporations.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm
But
not
they
saying
gotta make
yours.
money too.
I'm not
Like,
saying yours, but it's like, hey, we're helping people. We're the good, what we're the good
we're the
guys.
good guys.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you're like, and then like in the back, they're like slitting people's throats or something. I don't know. I think that would be a super fun,
I
fun
get
little
it.
movie.
My job was basically business development, was begging for money that was for the organization, which was, some of that was going to go to overhead because somebody's got to pay
Yeah.
the bill. Somebody's got to pay this bill, me, like that would
That
have
would,
to happen. But it
that would
was
be,
also like, okay, but this portion for sure, and what made me always feel better was like, I'm not just asking for money just to ask for money. It is for like how we fund these programs that
yeah.
you can see like a real investment up, you see the turnaround from that, or the return. But like, there is that element where you're like, so and so is being so cheap right now, and I really need them to give, like, it was
Yeah. Yeah.
companies, but you are kind of like, you get to that
Well,
sort of
it would
nickel and
be,
dime.
I think it would be funny to have a scene where, someone in a nonprofit who's trying to get money or whatever is like so nice on the phone and like really patient. And then they hang up and they have like, just all these slew of curses come out about what they really think about the person. I mean, I think that would kind of be
Well,
funny.
yes, and I can attest to in real life that does happen.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Because there are some real assholes out there, and you feel like you got to call them out. Not to their
Yeah.
face,
Yeah,
because you
not
still need their money, but they're on a
oh
list.
gosh.
Yeah,
Um, all right.
nothing's without its price.
So let's talk about a little bit of the being piece, like the acting. Is there anybody who in this jumped out? I mean, we've talked a lot about the characters, but who
Mhm.
like seems to as an actor really become, I mean, I think they all do. I think that is kind of
I
the
feel
the
very,
nature of her films,
yeah.
and they're so subtle. But anybody that you can or a moment where it seemed like there was a real essence of presence that was like more palpable, that presence, than others in the movie, like any moments like that. Trying to think if I found
I
that. We
felt like
didn't
it was a real moment of just sort of quiet desperation when Alex and Mary are in bed, and it's basically the last time they're going to have sex. And he feels guilty about doing this a number of times with her. And even when it does show them doing it, it never feels like it's a hot thing. It's like a just sort of by rote
wrote. Yeah.
doing it out of like what boredom? I don't even know. And not fun. And he even says like I don't even know why I'm doing this because I don't like he talks about like yes, things get stale with his marriage because it's like they're partners in so many things that you kind of just you lose some of that like sexiness and
Yeah.
attraction, which
Yeah.
is normal. But the fact that he's like it almost feels like he's not that motivated to have an affair. It's just Mary gives him the like green flag of like maybe, and he just kind of goes with it. And then he's still like, even when they first started she's giving him the facial, he's like, I don't know why I did that. I I shouldn't have done that. The whole thing is, I don't know why I did this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know
you're
why I did
right. I
this. I
do.
don't
I
like
like that.
this. I'm
Mhm.
not this person. It's like it's almost like he did it to fulfill the midlife crisis trope of a man. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is my
But
next.
it is so common, it's not, you hate to say like the trope or the cliche, but
But that
then
is
when
what it
you
is.
you see these things happen or you hear and you're like,
That's
seriously?
why I'm
Come
saying
on, like really?
cliche is
And
reason.
they exist for reasons. Yeah, I do think you're right. He does a good job with that, but he doesn't, and it's very subtle in the sense that does the guy feel he's not crying in a corner like the shame or the guilt. He just kind of plays, he keeps playing like along with everything. I
Right.
felt like it also kind of shines a light on like he still loves his wife. He still sees her as a
Yes.
partner. He still loves his daughter. And I did feel a lot more in his efforts after that in the guilt to like make his daughter happy. And there were some
Right.
scenes with Sarah Steele. I mean, I guess maybe that's who I would pick out as a fun character. So Sarah Steele, who plays Abby, is also in The Good Wife.
Yes,
She's
I
like
know.
oh my God.
Yes.
And I love The Good Wife.
She's a real firebrand.
Yeah, so she's kind of, I feel like her similar.
Snappy.
She's that kind of character. She has a sassiness about her, but it's again the rawness of the mammograms in the beginning and the rawness of her face when she's breaking out and then she gets the facial and then her face is all pink. I mean, she does an amazing job, I think, as a daughter, an adolescent daughter trying to find her way, even in the jeans when she's like trying on the jeans and looking in
Yes.
stores.
Like
Like I
looking and
really
awkward.
felt, yeah, I have a jean story from an adolescence of the jeans I wanted. I really wanted bongo jeans once. It
There
was
you
like a
go, of
huge
course.
dramatic event because those were the only jeans I wanted to wear. Everybody else was wearing bongo jeans. I
Right.
saw the importance of it.
It's so true. No, I got it. I understood it very much where you're like, but why won't you just, I know it's pricier, or I know, like, you sort of even know you're being ridiculous, but you still can't stop yourself from being ridiculous and being like so full of just not always anger, but just like frustration. Like you're not getting it. I know you said you understand what it's like to be a teenager, but I don't think you do. Like nobody ever understands. And it's played so well by her, but
Yeah.
also that she then has those moments where when she's getting that facial and she's realizing my dad comes and gets
Yeah, this
facials
is weird.
and
That's
she's
weird.
sort of like taking that in. And she's still like, I thought she was gonna get out of there and just be like, no, I don't want the laser peel, like get off me. But she just kind of like keeps taking it. And then afterwards, it's just so she's closed off to her dad. And she has becomes more open to her mom when her mom is there and sees her. And her dad gets it. He knows it's like they don't speak of it, but they both know what he did. And the resolution is basically him saying, well, neither of us are going back there again. Like, she
Yeah.
did a horrible job with your face. And you know what? Facials are not for me. Like, we're never going back there.
And
And
it's like better not to know any more details than that. She can have that
right,
hunch, but like let's keep
I'm
it
not
just a
going to go
hunch.
into
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
that's enough. Now he's continued to keep it from his wife, but it's like I don't know what the right answer. I mean, as a wife, I'd be like, no, you need to I need to know what's happening because this affects me and my health and also the relationship.
My God.
But
Yes. Oh my God. That's so, oh, sorry. I just realized that like when a
she
man,
never knows at the end of it either. So like I thought that was
yeah.
gonna be a thing and it wasn't. And part of me was kind of like,
Yeah, you
all
don't know if
right,
he was doing like having protected sex. Oh, geez, I didn't even think of all the logistics. That's why I love you, the Virgo in you. I mean, it's not that I don't think of those things, but in watching this particular film, I was thinking so much about the awkward moments and not the
yeah,
fact that, the like reality is that if a man is cheating or a woman, right,
it's a
anybody,
betrayal on so many
yeah,
levels.
then you're intimate with your spouse. What have you maybe brought to your spouse that your spouse is unaware of that is
Correct.
unhealthy, Ooh, do you know, by the way, this total tangent.
Okay.
So when babies are born, I learned this from my midwife. I I called the midwife on a couple of occasions with three
Nice.
children. Uh, or
Shout
the
out PBS.
and the doula maybe too. But I mean, they had a whole different. They told me a lot more information than my doctor. It was like two different worlds. It was like being Republican and Democrat, the midwives and the doulas versus the obstetricians. I was like, what the heck's happening here? I don't understand.
Oh,
But so when babies are born in a hospital, they automatically have this like ointment on their eyes. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but in general, I didn't know what that was with like initially with my son who was born first. I remember like this ointment on his eyes, and I mean, you're delirious. You just went through
yeah.
whatever.
I
I
think
was like,
that's
I don't know
true.
what this is,
Yes.
but my
I don't think I
midwife
asked questions.
my midwife told me that that became a standard practice in hospitals at a certain era, a certain decade, and I can't remember when. Maybe it was like the 30s, 40s, 50s. I don't know, somewhere in the mid 1900s because gonorrhea could create
Oh,
blindness
blindness.
in
Yeah.
children, right? So because there was so much rampant like infidelity and a woman didn't necessarily know if her
No.
husband was giving her gonorrhea, she wouldn't know. She thought he was faithful. Every
Syphilis.
baby,
That was another
yeah,
big thing. Yeah.
every baby automatically gets this ointment on their eyes, which if you know that your spouse is faithful, you're like, hey, I don't need the ointment. But my midwife gave me that choice, right? That's what I'm saying is the difference of
Because
knowledge
then
versus
it is
not
like,
having it.
I'd like to think I'm right, but
Yeah, well, no, in my situation, I felt very secure that we were
oh,
we were
me
good.
too.
I can't remember if the kid got the ointment. I can't even remember, but still, it was just like one of those things where you're like, oh my gosh, like what
This
if
affects
that
many
was,
things,
yeah. So
not
that
just
baby
the
comes
like,
out and is blind because, and then the spouse is like, oh, shoot, I didn't tell you about this thing. Oh my
right.
gosh. So, yeah, I feel like there's not a lot of energy and emotion brought to infidelity in the movie. It's almost like par for the course,
Yeah.
but ooh,
In such
yeah.
a boring and like sad
Yeah,
kind of
why? Like,
way.
why even do it if it's not even that it's
It's not,
even
and
fun?
Mary's even like, something to do, like some kind of
Yeah.
pick me up, but
To
it's
feel
not really,
anything. Yeah, feel
nobody's
anything.
feeling anything. It's just like, why are you even bothering? But okay.
Well, it's when it's kids. I feel like that's the difference is like sometimes marriages, I think monogamy is a challenging experience for many, many years. I think it's wonderful when people do that. And
Sure.
I know different people go through different phases of their lives, whether it's divorce or they open their marriage or whatever they do to make it.
As long as
But
it's
I,
consensual on both
yes. Oh,
parts.
yeah, absolutely. But I guess the challenge is with kids because kids processing that kind of thing is more difficult, right? And I feel like
Dramatic.
that's where that's why the movie really highlights Abby as an adolescent dealing with that more because it's almost like for Abby that hurts more to think that her father would be disloyal than it would even hurt Kate. Like it might hurt Kate, but it seems like the way
It
that it
hurts her, and it hurts her that it would be with Mary, who she was thinking was so great and
yes.
blunt, and is also like so beautiful and is, trying to make her skin better, but really is like, she likes that she's blunt and like, oh yeah, you've got like some real problems there, but I can fix it. But to be in this person's chair who's beautiful and is now causing you pain, at least physically, by doing whatever treatments, and then is also like basically unknowingly stabbing you in the heart by saying, yeah, and I got your dad too. Like, it's confusing and upsetting, and it's just such a betrayal on a bunch of different levels. Plus, it's like, well, now I have this information. I know, but I don't know. And it's a secret that I'm sort of sharing with
Yeah.
my.
Being a kid is freaking hard. Like young, teenage, whatever it is, like it's challenging. And I feel like that's why I guess saying that Abby stands out to me as a character because I like the way the film captures adolescence and the challenges of an adolescent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the parents trying to be, and the parents being, for the most part, like good parents,
Yeah.
chill, on try to get on their daughter's level, are not afraid to be like kind of joking and
Yeah.
whatever, and also disciplined to a certain degree, but like they're just very normal. It's just like, that's why it's sort of these quiet, sort of inside portrayals of like these lives. Like you get inside their apartment and their lives and their rooms, and it's just very, it's interior lives, basically, I feel like, for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan. So I think these films to me are like studies. Like they're like a
Yes.
study, like a social study or a societal kind of study. Yeah.
And it's beautifully done. It like highlights the ordinary in an extraordinary kind of
Yeah.
way and heightens it. So
Yeah.
that you see it, but it's also like so personal and so, I guess, like, I mean, maybe it's kind of endearing in a way of like these characters.
Which I think was what Woody Allen and I haven't I can't really speak to the whole repertoire of Woody Allen, but I think
Right.
Woody Allen has tried, at least in his earlier films, was trying to do that, but he has a different kind of ego happening that
Right.
creates a different
Well, and he's
energy.
putting himself in all those movies for most of
Yeah,
his
which yeah.
career.
And then Noah Baumbach, I think, also does some really interesting like family studies in his
Yes.
films. But it's different. It almost has a grander, more sweeping approach. And Nicole
Right.
Holofceners are the subtle little like drumbeat, I think,
Yeah.
of of life. Anyway, I love them. I think that I have so much respect for them. Okay, so in the end here, we have to read the original script. Did you get my
I got your script. You know I did. Hold
yeah.
on. I gotta pull
Me,
it
me
up.
and my goofy little it's like I'm whipping up cookies. Like I feel like right before podcast, I'm like, it's almost like I'm okay, gotta like make the really quick cookies, and that's my script. They're like cookies. Um they really are. Well, me
That's an
and
analogy.
I love cookies.
I know you do.
It's a theme for me. Cookies are a theme.
Cookies are
They've always
delicious.
been a theme. All right. Yeah, okay. So we have in this script, I put please give part two. and it's Kate and a dude on the street. Kate is walking home to her apartment in Manhattan. She sees a dude on the street and he approaches her. He's wearing moccasins and has a backpack that is better fit for a child. And by the way, I've written a bunch of scripts that were for our like our exploration of the masculine that came before this. And in
Mm-hmm.
that, I had this like teasing, I wanted to tease, I wanted to like play around with. This is not, you don't like,
This is not that.
this is a whole different cake. So, all right. You want to be the dude or you want to be Kate?
Um,
And I still keep doing this dude word all the time. I don't know why. I just keep showing up with scripts that say dude because
I don't know. Have you been watching The Big Lebowski or
no,
something?
I've never even watched that whole film because I find it boring. I keep falling asleep. So I don't
Oh,
know why I keep
so many
the dude.
quotable things though.
Yeah, apparently, but I just never finished it.
The dude abides. The dude abides. Um, I can be dude.
You want to be dude? Okay. Okay. So now I have
I'm
to
open.
try to do the Catherine Keener Kate thing. Okay, we'll try.
Did you also see her sister was in the movie too?
Yeah, no, wait, which
Who
character
was
was
this?
she?
She was in the beginning. She worked at the radiology,
Oh,
the front
okay.
desk. She
Yeah, because
looks very much like her
she wasn't
sister.
in the whole thing though. She
No,
was,
no, it was a smaller part.
and just as an aside, Catherine Keener's hair was great in this movie. And also I wore my brunette wig
I see that.
because Nicole Holofcener always casts brunettes. And so I just wanted to celebrate like the power of the brunette. And then
Mm-hmm.
my hat, of course. I got oh my God, this is so weird synchronicity. I was at this event. My friend invited me to this like event where they had food and wine and like little giveaways. It was like a celebration of some magazine.
Nice.
And the facial people gave me this hat. I had to spin a wheel and I really wanted the hat that said, what does it say? Hot
Hot
Moms
Moms
Club.
Club.
Hot Moms Club. Yeah. I was like, I want that hat. So she's like, well, you have to spin the wheel. I spun the wheel. I got my Hot Moms Club hat. So I just felt like
Lucky.
this was the appropriate attire for the Nicole Holofcener film. I just want to put out the brunette and the Hot Moms Club thing. So
I
like,
agree with all your
yeah,
decisions.
we're all holding hands in a circle like a Matisse painting right now. Okay, we're just like enter. That's what's happening, even though we're all in different cities or whatever. Okay,
That's right.
okay, all right, go ahead.
All right. Hello, ma'am. Could you give me some food?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have any food on me. Let me see if I have some cash.
You shouldn't go in your purse on the street like that. Someone can come by and steal your money.
Oh, but how would I give you money? I need to go into my purse.
You can keep some cash in your pocket. I think that is safer. And then you can just give cash to people if they ask. Then you don't have to open your whole purse.
Oh, thanks. That's sweet of you. What's your name?
I prefer not to tell people my name.
Oh, why?
It just keeps things simpler.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm still going in my purse to get you some cash. I may have spent all my cash though. I don't have a lot of cash these days. I'd Venmo you, but you probably don't have a smartphone.
Nah, I just have a flip phone for emergencies.
Emergencies? I mean, isn't your whole life an emergency? You're homeless, it looks like.
I have a shelter. I have a support group. One day I'll get a job and figure things out better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you will. Shit, I don't have any cash.
That's cool. Have a nice day.
Wait, can I buy you a sandwich or something?
I have some food allergies, but yeah, I'm sure we can get something somewhere.
Let me walk with you. I can at least buy you some food with my card.
Okay, thanks. Are you sure you want to be seen walking with me?
Yeah. Yes. Maybe we can even sit down. Do you like diners?
I haven't been to a diner in forever, since I was 22. Sure, if you're up for it, we could sit at a diner.
Okay. I'm I'm a little nervous, but I'd like to at least buy you a warm meal.
What's your name?
You want to know? You don't think it will complicate things.
Nah,
It's Kate.
nice. I had a teacher named Kate once. She was my crush in 5th grade.
The two walk to a nearby diner, and Kate asks for a table. They sit and have a quiet, awkward, and sweet conversation while Dude orders and eats. I should have been specific about what Dude orders. What would he order?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of
And you'd have
does
to get
though.
into the food allergies. I don't know.
Yeah, we had to end somewhere. Yeah.
No, what would be
Ordered
funny is if
I
it
think
had
he'd
been
get
he orders
soup.
something so specific and everything on the side. And it would just be like, all right,
Yes.
that would make it
Or
interesting.
like he gets like a quinoa salad. You know, like
Sure.
something very
Or if he's just
where
like,
you're thinking
yeah,
like you're gonna get a soup or like a grilled cheese, and he's like, I'd
I'm
like the
gluten
quinoa.
free.
But he didn't say that, and that was just my that he. I didn't have that in the script that he's gluten free. Did I?
No, but it would be
Okay.
funny if he was like saying that and then he was like, I'll have, and then like says like, and a side salad, dressing on the side, of course. No croutons. I'm
Yeah, he
serious.
has to have, and I think he wants blue cheese. He wants blue cheese
Blue
crumbles.
cheese crumbles.
Because go all out.
Only
If
crumbles.
you're getting a
Right.
salad at a diner by this like
Who
brunette,
says a homeless person can't know what they want? I mean,
he remembers blue cheese.
he's,
It's good.
yeah,
It's good.
look, he knows what he likes. And that's very human.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love you, Ms. Cool. Ms. Cool, you pulled out all the coolness, and I know you even have more. Like there's just a well of coolness in you.
It's
And I
true.
really appreciate that you brought your coolness to my club today.
You're welcome. It's, my pleasure, my duty, really, I think. And
I'm glad you feel that way. I'm gonna remind you next time. I'm like, hey,
yeah,
when can you do this pod? I'm gonna say, remember, it's your duty. No,
it's my duty, yes.
I won't
Well,
mess with you.
I've gotta share the wealth.
Yes, you do. Please give. Please give me
And
time. Please give
I
me
will
time.
give. I will give. Please give. I'm giving. I'm never not giving, I feel
No,
like.
I agree because you. I know this about you. I know this about you.
I'm always giving.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Yes. So it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on the Ms. Wonderful podcast. Hashtag gratitude and
Hashtag Hot Moms Club
hashtag Hot Moms Club, of course. So
and hashtag. We need one more hashtag Holoftember. It's
all right, I'll go with
Holoftember.
Holoftember. Holoftember.
Yeah, hashtag.
Just say it fast.
Okay, let's say it fast. Holoftember.
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 Holoftember. Holoftember.
Wait,
Now
let
I'm
me
just
say it
saying
3
temper.
times fast and then you. Holoftember, Holoftember, Holoftember. I did it. Can you do it 3 times?
Holoftember, Holoftember, Holoftember.
Very good. I'm impressed.
Thank
See,
you.
it's a word that works. It's a word that works.
It does. It does. It feels awkward, but it's not.
It's actually possible. It's very
It
possible.
is. It's very, very possible. Oh, fall
All
femme.
right.
That's what
I
we're
love
doing.
you. And I wish that I had thought to send you a brunette wig before this, but there's still time.
If you're looking at my roots, it's looking a little brown there.
Holoftember is not over yet. Maybe you'll get a brown wig this month. I mean, your birthday's coming up, so is mine. And
That's true.
a brunette wig might be part of the package.
Ooh la la.
All right. Thank you to listeners for this exciting excursion into the life of a Manhattan couple in Please Give the film and the films of this just lovely director and writer, Nicole Holofcener. Please stay tuned this month, Holoftember, aka September, for more excursions into the world of Nicole Holofcener. And please also follow the Ms. Wonderful Film Club blog. So you can find that at mswonderful.substack. rosewoodstv.com. And last little plug, YouTube, where you can find a lot of podcast clips and other, you know, woodsy information is Rosewoods TV. So check that out on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. And we hope that you have a wonderful day.